Meltem, we always love having you on Quick Take. So we had you on right after mining was banned in China. How significant was that ban, and what did it do to mining operations globally?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And one of the great things about Bitcoin that is so wonderful for anyone who likes data, which we at CoinShares do, is data around hash power, where it's coming from, is really easy to find on the blockchain. So if we look at hash rate, we've seen a really large drop in hash rate. We're now at around January levels in terms of hash rate. But what's important to really emphasize here is a lot of the crackdown on mining has been on large scale industrial operations that are drawing a lot of power from hydroelectric facilities in the Sichuan region. And what we're seeing now is the migration of that mining equipment, either via resale or miners migrating to new jurisdictions. And really what Bitcoin miners are doing around the world is they're trying to find access to low-cost power, which in most instances is going to be renewable energy. So we've seen a lot of that activity shifting to the United States, shifting to Kazakhstan, shifting to Iceland and other parts of the world where you can find abundant power and the ability to co-locate a large mine with a renewable power source.
And Meltem, can you just explain the hash rate that you were just mentioning for us?
Yeah, I'd love to. Sorry to throw in some jargon. I know it's early in the morning. So the Bitcoin network is, a bunch of specialized semiconductors or ASICs performing calculations. This is what proof of work or Bitcoin's consensus algorithm does. And so hash rate is a measure of the computation that's on the Bitcoin network. And so the Bitcoin network has a tremendous amount of computational power dedicated to it, which is what gives the Bitcoin network its security. So in a way, hash rate is a really great measure of the security of the Bitcoin network as a function of the amount of computers that are dedicated to keeping the network secure.
Got it. And Meltem, we were just talking to Wes Fulford, who was saying that he feels a lot of the negative press that Bitcoin mining has gotten has been a bit overblown. I wonder, you just said you think there are opportunities here to do more renewable hydroelectric energy. What do you think? I mean, do you think all of this has been a little bit overblown?
Absolutely. And look, again, the Bitcoin network is really easy to attack because it's the only industry in the world that's extremely transparent about its energy usage. So what's really great is in 2018, CoinShares, my firm, published the first bottoms-up research study where we found that over 73% of Bitcoin mining was done with renewables, primarily in the form of hydroelectric power, again, in the Sichuan region. Last year, Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance did their own study that was a survey where they reached the conclusion that over 40% of Bitcoin mining was done with renewable energy. And then last month, there's a new entity called the North American Bitcoin Mining Council, where all of the publicly listed miners are sharing their information about their power sources, and they're at about 56% renewable energy. The share of renewables on the US grid is only 19%. So Bitcoin is already 3 times more energy friendly, more sustainable than the US energy grid, which I think is something that doesn't get talked about enough. The other point I'll just quickly add is ESG. It's not just about E, the environment, it's also about the S and the G. And on social equity and governance, Bitcoin really shines. This is a network that provides financial freedom to hundreds of millions of people around the world. And that is something I think that, most traditional banks, most traditional financial systems can't really say. It's very centralized. The power is controlled by a small handful of people. And Bitcoin really is in so many ways the antithesis of that.
Can it get greener though, Meltem?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And right now there are a lot of Bitcoin miners working with nuclear power generation, working to put new renewables on the grid, right? One of the challenges is how do we put new renewable sources on the grid? It's very difficult for one industry to directly control where power comes from, but already Bitcoin miners are working closely with producers of renewables to put new renewables on the grid by using Bitcoin as the economic incentive to do so. So we're not relying on government subsidies. We're not relying on more government infrastructure spending. We're using private market incentives to put more renewables on the grid.
And where do you see this going from here, Meltem? I mean, we mentioned China has banned it.
Yeah.
Where do you think it goes from here, though? Do you see other countries, as you mentioned, sort of taking this opportunity to maybe lean in more to Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if we look at what happened to the data center space, right? All companies in the world today utilize an extensive number of third-party data centers, third-party data infrastructure to do all of their compute, their data storage. Blockchains and the Bitcoin network, it's just a new type of compute and a new type of data structure. And so again, what we're starting to see is companies are going to be using third parties to help them host their Bitcoin mining infrastructure. Some countries might actually invest in Bitcoin mining infrastructure as a matter of national security policy, as a matter of national cybersecurity policy. And already we have a great example in the form of Equinix, that's a $75 billion company in the United States that's providing digital infrastructure to all of the largest players in the digital space. So similarly, I think we're at the starting point of seeing the explosion of a $1 trillion industry that's focused on supporting, sustaining, and expanding these different types of compute networks that provide a high degree of security in financial transactions. So I think this is a huge industry. Yeah, it's just getting started.
And what about regulation, though, Meltem? I mean, we're still early on in regulation here in the States. How do you see this sort of affecting crypto mining going forward?
And here, a great example, again, we've seen some states and some jurisdictions taking a really proactive approach. Kentucky has been really welcoming to Bitcoin miners. So has Florida, particularly the city of Miami under Mayor Suarez's leadership. Similarly, Texas has been really friendly to Bitcoin mining. Wyoming's getting in the game. So I think what we're going to start to see is sort of jurisdictions working to attract crypto companies and the economic growth that comes with them. And again, even in the state of New York tried to put a moratorium on Bitcoin mining, and a union actually protested the moratorium and had it repealed. So again, I think there's a careful balance here of the economic growth opportunity that comes with this new industry and balancing some of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt and some of the false narratives that are being perpetuated.